Okay, learner. So today we're diving into AI, and not like your typical, ooh, shiny new gadgets kind of way. We're going deeper, kind of peeling back the layers on a side of AI that might make you, maybe think twice before you just hit accept all on that next software update.
Yeah, absolutely. This isn't just about like smarter phones or, a slightly more efficient to-do list. This is about a potential, really a fundamental shift in how we interact with technology and maybe even how technology interacts with us.
Okay, so our guide for this deep dive is this fascinating audio recording we found. It digs into this whole evolving AI landscape, and it paints a picture of a future that I don't know, feels kind of eerily familiar, like something out of Black Mirror, right?
Mhm.
And not like one of the fun episodes either.
Yeah, think more like Nosedive meets White Christmas, that kind of vibe.
Yeah, exactly. So the source, they argue that the way these new AI features like Apple Intelligence, Windows Copilot, all that, the way they're being marketed, it's like intentionally downplaying how much they can really do.
Right. It's like they're dangling this shiny new toy in front of us, but meanwhile, in the background, they're changing the locks on the back door, you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, totally. They're selling us on convenience, personalized experiences,
Yeah.
maybe even like better selfies. But underneath all that, it's like there's this whole other story going on.
Exactly. And the source, they use this example of Windows Recall, that feature, it's supposed to let you go back and see like your past computer activity, right? And it sounds kind of cool, maybe even helpful at first, but
Yeah.
but then it makes you wonder like how often are we really trying to dig up what we were doing on our computer 6 months ago, you know?
I can barely remember what I had for breakfast, let alone what I was doing on my laptop last spring.
Right. Exactly. So the source is suggesting that these features, they might actually be more about like getting us used to this idea of constant data collection rather than actually giving us something useful. It's
Huh.
like they're offering you a free massage, but then, subtly taking your fingerprints while you're not looking.
Yeah. And let's not forget about all those vocal shortcuts,
Mm.
right? That these new AI systems are always talking about. It's like having like a personal assistant like 24/7 on standby.
Mm.
But the catch is that assistant, it's always listening. Even when, maybe you'd rather have things be, just for your ears.
Think about all those times you've had a conversation near your phone and totally forgot that the microphone's probably picking up every word.
Or those times you've typed something kind of personal,
Yeah.
and then boom, it pops up later as a suggested word.
Mm.
It's like our devices are turning into these digital diaries that we never actually agreed to write in.
And definitely haven't been given the option to, edit the drafts or anything.
Okay, so we've talked about kind of the sneaky ways these systems are gathering data, right?
Right.
But the source, they actually get into some really specific, kind of unsettling details about the type of information these AIs are collecting on us.
Yeah, and we're not just talking about like, what websites you visit or who you're texting. It goes way beyond that. We're talking constant screenshots, detailed key logging, which for anyone who doesn't know, it means literally recording every single keystroke you make.
So even if you delete something you typed, the AI still knows what you wrote.
Potentially, yeah. And think about the implications of that just for seconds. Like every first draft you've ever written, every typo, every fleeting thought you've ever, typed out and erased, it's all potentially still there, recorded and probably analyzed.
It's like your phone is like secretly writing your biography and not one you necessarily want published.
Right. And that's just the beginning. The source goes on to explain how these AI systems, they can actually tap into the data from your phone's sensors, things like tracking your location, monitoring what other devices are nearby, even, and this is kind of wild, even potentially using your camera for like facial recognition, all without you knowing.
It's like having a digital shadow, just like constantly following you, collecting information about every move you make, every interaction.
And here's the really scary part. Most of this data collection, it's happening passively in the background, without us really knowing, without our consent, without any control.
It's like we're basically trading our privacy for convenience without even realizing what we're giving up.
And that's where the real danger is because once this data is out there, once it's been like scooped up and analyzed, who knows how it could be used against us in the future, right?
Okay, that's
Yeah.
a pretty scary thought. But
Yeah.
before we, spiral into a full-blown like tech panic attack, let's break this down a little more.
Yeah, let's dive a little deeper. Let's look at the specifics. How is this data actually being used? And what could it mean for us, both now and in the future, right?
So we've talked about all this data these AI systems are gathering, right? Like it's a lot. But here's where things get even kind of more interesting, I think. The source, they say all this data, it isn't just like sitting around somewhere, right? It's being like actively looked at, analyzed by the AI, almost like a, I don't know, a digital detective putting together clues.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's like, imagine if instead of just, keeping track of every book you've ever read, someone was like taking notes on how you read them, like
Right.
highlighting passages you thought were interesting, analyzing your like emotional responses, even trying to predict what books you'd like in the future based on all that.
It's like having this personal librarian, who just knows you better than you know yourself.
Except, well, this librarian, they're not just, recommending books. They're building this whole profile. Your interests, your values, like your deepest desires, all all based on like your digital trail.
Wow.
And here's the thing, that profile, it can then be used to like influence what you do
Hmm.
in all kinds of ways. Like it's not just about seeing ads for stuff you might buy, right? It gets deeper, like the choices you make being kind of nussed along by algorithms designed to like steer you in a certain direction.
It's like those social media experiments, right?
Yeah.
Where they messed with people's news feeds to see if it would change like how they were feeling.
Exactly. But this is like way bigger and a lot more, I don't know, sneaky.
Okay, so we've talked about like the data collection, the analysis,
Okay.
right? But what about security? I mean, if our phones, our laptops, everything's storing all this personal stuff, it's got to be like locked down tight.
Right. That's the million-dollar question. And the source, they actually raise some really big red flags about that. As we're relying more and more on these AI-powered devices, it's like we're putting all our eggs in one basket, and then we're handing that basket to, well, someone we barely know.
Right.
And even those traditional ways of protecting our data, like encryption, right? That might not be enough anymore.
Wait, really? I thought encryption was supposed to be like unbreakable.
It is in theory. But the thing is, if the AI, if it's already reading your keystrokes, seeing what's on your screen, before anything even gets encrypted, it's like leaving the back door wide open.
Right, right. It's like having like this super high-tech security system, but then you just like forget to lock the front door.
Exactly. And this is where this whole centralized thing with these AI systems, it gets really worrying. Because if one of these systems gets hacked, right, it's not just like your credit card info that's at risk anymore. It's everything, your messages, your photos, your whole digital life.
It's like the mother of all data breaches just waiting to happen.
Right. And the scariest part is we might not even know if it happened because these systems, they're so like complicated, so opaque, most of us, we wouldn't even know where to start trying to figure out what they're doing.
So it's like we're handing over the keys to our digital kingdoms without even asking for a map, right?
Pretty much. And that kind of blind trust, that can have some serious consequences, not just for us, but for everyone.
Okay, so this is a lot to take in. What can we even do about this? Like, is there any way to have these AI benefits without, basically giving up all our privacy and security in the process?
The source, they don't really give like easy answers. But one thing they do stress is like being aware. Like informed consent. We got to be more proactive about understanding what we're getting into and making choices about the tech we use.
So not just clicking agree without reading those terms and conditions, huh?
Right, right. We got to start asking the hard questions like how is our data being collected? What are they doing with it? Is it actually safe?
So what can we actually do? Like specific steps to protect ourselves in this whole new AI world?
Well, one thing is we can look into like different technologies, ones that are built with privacy and security in mind.
You mean like ditching our smartphones and going back to like tinfoil hats and carrier pigeons? Yeah.
Huh. I mean, not necessarily. But there are some pretty cool alternatives popping up, like, operating systems focused on privacy or open source software where you have more control. It's funny you should mention tinfoil hats, because, I mean, maybe not literally, right? But that whole idea of like surveillance, it's not that far off from what the source is talking about. Like they really blur the lines between our digital lives and the law.
Right, yeah, like they actually
Yeah.
talk about like your phone, right? With all that data it's been collecting, every text, every location, it could actually end up being used against you in court.
Exactly. Think about it. Instead of like witnesses or physical evidence, they're building a case Based on what? Data from your own devices.
That's kind of chilling when you really think about it. Like, what happened to, innocent until proven guilty? And if that's the new reality, what are we supposed to do? Just like accept it, or is there any way to
Yeah.
like fight back against this?
Well, the source seems to think that one way is to make some noise about it,
Yeah.
Like get people talking, push for some stricter rules on how this technology is being used and who has access to it.
So it's not just about like, us as individuals trying to like opt out of data collection or use more private software, right?
Mhm.
It's bigger than that. It's
Yeah.
about holding these companies, these institutions accountable for how they're like building and using these AI systems.
Exactly. It's about making sure AI is actually like a tool that benefits everybody, not just, a select few.
Because I mean, if we don't, it's like we're kind of sleepwalking into this future
Mhm.
where every thought we have, every move we make, it's all being tracked, analyzed, manipulated even by these algorithms that honestly most of us don't understand.
And that's a future I don't think any of us want.
Yeah, well said. So, learner, as we kind of wrap up this deep dive into AI, we don't want to leave you with like a sense of doom and gloom, right? Because, yeah, there are some big, valid concerns here about privacy, security, how this tech could be misused. But the important thing to remember is we're not powerless, right?
Right. We have a say in this. It's about staying informed, like we're doing now, talking about it, and demanding better from the folks who are creating this technology.
Because at the end of the day, the future of AI, it's not some like set path, right? It's what we make it. It's up to us to decide how this tech fits into our lives, into our world.
And to make sure it's working for us, not the other way around.
And on that note, learner, we'll leave you with this. As we keep moving into this age of AI, it's more important than ever to remember that knowledge, like real understanding. That's power.
Absolutely. The more we know about how this stuff works, the better we can navigate it and hopefully shape it for the better.
So stay curious, stay informed, and most importantly, stay engaged, right?
Mm.
Because the future of AI, it's not being decided for us. We're all creating it together.
And it all starts by asking the right questions.